Welcome to the Health Revolution, the show that leads you to a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity through a sea of fads. We reveal the science behind the strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery, the keys to an enriched life. See inspiring interviews with the champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest together. If you want to change the game, it all starts now. Meet Steve Morris, navigator of possibility and leadership guide. From building world-class racing yachts to managing multi-million-dollar programs, Steve knows how to lead through turbulent waters, both at sea and in business. Once at the helm of a global design firm, he walked away from burnout and stepped into a life of purpose, presence, and peace. Now, from his 31-acre Colorado farm, he helps leaders trade pressure for clarity and realign their health, leadership, and impact. Today, we'll learn what it takes to stop drifting and start living with intention, no matter how stormy the seas. Stephen, so tell us who you are and why what you do matters.
Well, thanks for having me here, Adriana. So I'm Stephen Morris. I'm a certified EOS Implementer and an executive coach. So I work with business owners and leadership teams to really just help them figure out where are they going with their business, get some discipline and accountability around that, and work together as healthy, functional, cohesive teams.
Now, it sounds like a lot, and I know I can hear an accent. So talk to me a little bit about how you got to where you are right now.
Well, from New Zealand originally, that's where this accent's from down south. And it's been a long journey, but my first job right out of college was on a professional sailing team. So I went from studying mechanical engineering to being at the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning and lifting weight and training to get strong enough to be able to go out with this professional sailing team. And we were working to get an 85-foot boat ready to go sail around the world. So it was quite a transition in my life, and I was sort of following this very academic path, and then really getting to be able to work, with a group of people on something truly amazing, which is to go win a round the world yacht race.
Which is exciting, and it can be scary. And how'd you do? How'd you do when you were part of that?
So I was working with the team to help them get the boat ready for the race. And so success for me was to see them sailing off around the world at the start of the race. And for me, that meant a transition in my life. I actually got to come to the US to design sailboats because I'd met the designer of the boat and they needed more people in their design office, because they had more projects that were going on for things like the America's Cup. And for people who don't know about sailing, the America's Cup is like, the Formula One of yacht racing. It is the prize that everybody goes after. The America's Cup is actually the sporting trophy that's been in competition, the longest of any sporting trophy since 1852.
That's impressive. And why boats? What drew you to boats? What was the big draw?
Well, I'm in New Zealand. New Zealand's a tiny little island in the South Pacific, and so I grew up sailing. And for us, summer holidays were going on the boat. We would sail up and down the coast of New Zealand, throw a line over the side and catch fish, and you'd be having sashimi that used to be swimming in the water, 30 minutes before, diving for scallops and crayfish, and it was just the life that I grew up with. Incredibly grateful for that.
And how did you know that it was time to step away? So you started designing, you were part of the design team, which I think is extremely impressive. And what was the turning point for you in that stage of your life?
Well, it was a very interesting journey for me. So during that time when I was designing sailboats and I was working with these really, really high-performing teams, some of them, I would come in, I'd work with the team, and I really had that feeling like this team was together, they had each other's backs, literally sailing in the same direction. It was amazing. And then I'd work with some other teams, not quite as well organized, in fact, a little dysfunctional. And at the time, as an engineer and a designer sort of looking at these two teams, why was one team really amazing and why was another team not working? And unfortunately, I really sort of figured out within the world that I was in, I was never going to find those answers out. And so I had to sort of go on a journey, if you like, to go and find the tools that I now use with my clients to help them build really, really great teams.
What does EOS mean?
So EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's a complete system of a simple set of practical tools. I come in and work with a business owner and a leadership team to help them figure out, what is the vision for the business? Where are we going? And how are we going to get there? And to get some traction, some discipline, some accountability to do the things that they say they want to do, and then figure out how to work together as a healthy team. And this is where it ties back to my sailing days, because when we have a healthy team, we can do amazing things, literally go win a round the world yacht race. When we don't have a healthy team, it's a lot of years of work, effort, time, and money that ultimately ends up getting wasted. And I want to help my clients, business owners, not waste their time and money.
So one thing that intrigued me when you and I were talking before is just the clear vision and direction of what you do. And I can't help but wonder how much of dysfunction or disorganization goes back to behind the scenes. And so when you're working with others, when you're working with teams, are you very quickly able to pinpoint what's behind the hangups, the obstacles, and what do you do when it's more personal than professional, whether someone's struggling behind the scenes?
That's a great question. So you are right. I start coming in and working with a team, and initially, we start off with a playbook, if you like, about how we get this team to work together. And I get them to articulate, what's their vision, where we're trying to get to, and we break that down into, okay, well, what are we doing next quarter? What are we doing next month? What are we doing next week? And ultimately, they've got to go away and do that, right? Because I'm a coach, they're doing the work. So the point is, we come back after a period of time and have they done what they said that they needed to do? And if they haven't, then this is when we've got to, start getting curious and getting in and truly trying to understand, what's going on. And oftentimes, the excuse might be, it's the economy, it's this thing, it's, whatever's going on in the external world. And, okay, well, we can take that maybe as granted for the first time. But if we see the dysfunction, if we see we're not getting there again and again and again, then yes, we've got to start going a little bit deeper and really start seeing, how are they showing up as leaders? Because I have a group of people around the table with me, and how they're showing up, meaning what's going on inside. How do they see the world? How do they see each other? How do they see themselves? Is everything to the words that they use, the decisions that they make, and how they interact together as a team. So we have to start looking at that level to get a little deeper there.
Can a good leader be someone who struggles privately?
I think we all have struggles privately. No one's perfect. No one's perfect.
Agree.
Yeah, to me, a good leader is somebody, despite what's going on, has the humility and the vulnerability to be able to face those things and to learn and to press forward. Seth Godin, who's a very popular author, has this definition of leadership that just really resonates with me and I love, which is a leader is somebody who points at the horizon and says, that's where we're going. I don't know how we're going to get there. Follow me. Right? And so there's some vulnerability in that I don't know how we're going to get there. But the leadership is follow me and we're going to go as a team.
So one of our themes for our show is emotional resilience. The other of the three is mental mastery. And then, of course, just to recognize the being able to optimize our physical capabilities, our physical strength. So what do you find that many people struggle with emotionally? What kinds of patterns are you noticing that transcend into their private space?
Well, with the clients, the type of people I work with, it is not uncommon that imposter syndrome comes up, meaning, I work with business owners and executives in businesses who we don't have committees, we don't have study groups, we've just got individuals here on a leadership team, stuff's coming up in the business, we need to make a decision, we need to make a decision today. And sometimes, so people are making those decisions and then they're waking up at 2 o'clock the next morning thinking, did I make the right decision yesterday? Am I the right person to be leading this business? And then, because we can't really separate business and life, I think those same things start coming up in terms of, am I being a good spouse? Am I being a good parent? All of those other things, right? Because it's really hard, I think, to find the right balance between business, personal, family, all of these different aspects in our lives.
So in the calm bag, it has GABA, theanine, and taurine. So theanine, which is B1, which is also in our B complex, but it also helps with the stress response levels. It also helps with the neurological transmitters in our brain. Combined with the GABA, and then you add taurine to it. Taurine is a non-essential amino acid in our body, but it's found in our heart, our brain, and our eyes. So in my personal opinion, it's very essential in our lives. But taurine has a calming effect as well. When I was battling all my AFib issues, I was taking high doses of taurine because that would help with my AFib. It would help with the palpitations I was having. And it also helped with the anxiety of having the palpitations because I knew what was going on, and so taurine helps a lot with that as well. So those three together create such a wonderful concoction that just really just calms people down.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
You bring up a good point of how much of the personal life, how all of it is intertwined. And one of the things that I'm interested in finding out from you is, what are some universal obstacles that you're noticing, maybe not in any particular order, that a person who is trying to lead is is wanting to overcome and trying to be successful in their goals. So when you have someone who is in the business space or just in their role of occupation and then at home. So what are more common areas that you're noticing that people are struggling with?
So I think the biggest thing, when we start sort of diving in a little deeper is what I would call sort of mental fitness and resilience. And what I mean by this is really, we all have that voice in our head, that eternal talk track that's going on in our heads. But what's that talk track saying, right? Is it a very judging talk track, right? And so self-judgment or judgment of others. I call this non-useful thinking, right? Because when we're in judgment of ourselves and others, we're often not positioning ourselves to take effective actions and things. So, what's that judging voice that's going on in people's minds? And then, how does that then bleed into really, as I was talking about before, like how does that executive see the world? Right? Do we see the world as a world of scarcity? There's not enough. I've got to grab everything for myself because there just, isn't going to be enough to go around. Or is it a world of abundance? And taking that sort of stance of seeing the world as a world of abundance means then maybe in any 1 week when we don't get the client or something goes a little bit sideways, well, we can recover from that because we live in a world of abundance and there will be more. There will be something else coming. So just how we can see the world and then how we see others. And so this is just such a critical thing when I'm working with a team, right? Brene Brown has this great thing about, do we fundamentally see that others are doing their best? Or that judging voice, do we start, seeing that, and I've heard this, somebody's a slacker, they're not showing up, all of these things, I've seen it in the work that I do. That's, another mental frame, right? One of these is very useful. I see somebody is doing their best. Seeing that somebody is maybe not showing up as their best is not that useful. And then finally, right, how do we see ourselves? This is such a critical thing. Is that judging voice just filling the whole talk track inside, beating yourself up? Or do you have some forgiveness and grace for yourselves? And this is the hardest thing, I think, for hard-charging entrepreneurs, is to give themselves some grace.
So one question that I had is that, a lot of leaders there's moments in their lives where they do struggle, maybe emotionally, that emotional mindset can creep up in ways that it's surprising. Are you noticing trends that are creeping up more often times than not that showcase that that's more of a problem? Anything that they're struggling with right now that you see?
The most common thing that I see is what I call the judging voice in someone's head. And we all have that talk track, right, that's going in our head. But sometimes that voice can be a little loud and a little non-useful in terms of judgment, and shows up in judgment of circumstances, judgment of other people, and judgment of ourselves. And so I talk about this sort of concept about non-useful thinking and useful thinking. And when I have a leader who's in a state where they're not thinking in useful ways, right, then they're not always in a great position to be taking the good actions, the effective actions in their business. And then, of course, that can sometimes bleed over into, home life and other areas. So what I work on with my clients is to be able to kind of, like number one, let's kind of see what that talk track in the head is saying, right? And once we start noticing that, then what can we do to maybe, turn that a little bit? And so when I talk about judgment of circumstances, how do we see the world? Do we see the world as a world of scarcity, that there's not enough, and I've got to have it all, and I've got to hold on to it? Or do we see the world as a world of abundance, and that there is enough out there? And where that shows up in a business, of course, is in any given week, business is business. Things go sideways, clients leave, all of these things happen. If you're operating out of a world of scarcity, that gets really, really stressful. If you're operating out of a world of abundance, well, that client left, we're going to go get 3 more. It's a much more effective way of being a leader.
How big is stress management in the whole picture, and how much of that do you notice affects what people take home with them?
Stress is huge, right? It's just the ability to be able to come into situations and to be able to properly address those situations, with what I call like with your lid on, right? So not being in a state where the amygdala, the back of our brain, is firing, fight, flight, or freeze. If we can be in a state where we're taking, the proper, considered, calm, confident actions in the business, then we're going to make better decisions. So stress is a relative thing as well. And it's one of the interesting things for me to sort of relearn that. We can have an objective outside situation. One person, because of what's going on in their head, can be just completely discombobulated by that, right? And but another person, because of what's going on in their head and how they see things, can be like, this is fine, I've got this. And so I work with my clients on what I call mental fitness training. So just the same way we, get into the gym and we start lifting light weights and low reps, and then we carry on building up. It's the same thing. We can do the same thing with our mind, so that when we get to having, a real big stressful situation show up at work, and we've done the mental fitness training, then we can deal with that, right? And we don't go into the fight, flight, or fear. And to the degree that we can do that and have that show up at work, same thing at home too, because we all have situations that are occurring in our home life as well that can be very stressful.
I find that for people who are more emotional than others, that you have leaders who are calm, cool, and collected, and then you have those that maybe are unfiltered, that they don't try to hide how they feel, that it's just, it comes off very raw or maybe a little bit abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an indicator of concern? Is it more passion, or is the emotional distress a signal that mental fitness wise they don't have it together?
Well, I think it's a continuum, and at the far end of the continuum, I would say, being in a state where it's getting personal, right? Mean-spirited personal attacks. That's not good, right? But along that continuum, if we sort of back away from that, we get to a point where, yeah, let's bring some emotion, let's bring some passion, but, it's objective and it's about the business. It's about behaviors, maybe. It's not about the person, right? And then if we keep walking along that continuum, all the way at the other end is what I would call artificial harmony. And I've seen teams that are like this. And what I mean by that is no one's saying anything. Everything's fine. We're good. And at the same time,
everything's fine regardless.
We're not meeting our goals. We're down on revenue, but everything's fine. And there's something that's going on there too, which is that it's not a safe place for people to be able to bring their passion. So I see this as a continuum, and we want to be somewhere in the middle there where people do feel safe to bring their passion. I want to see a team passionately debating what's going on. Otherwise, we're not getting there. One of my colleagues sort of talked about this idea of, if someone's not about to throw the chair across the room, like, what's going on? I kind of feel like that's probably one step too far, personally. No one should be throwing chairs across the room, but the sentiment is we got to be caring deeply about what's going on in the business. Otherwise, we're just not going to get there.
So what's the difference between, can you give examples of passion, of where someone's very passionate and maybe they're just letting it all hang out, versus bad behavior? Can you distinguish the two?
Yeah, so I think passion to me would be like, gosh damn it, why didn't we meet the sales this quarter? We're down 20%. Let's talk about what happened, right? And to be able to, go down the what we call IDSing. So in EOS, we talk about identify, discuss, and solve. Let's identify what's at the core of this issue. Let's have a discussion about it, and let's go for the solve. So that then the dysfunctional side would be, gosh dang it, we haven't met the sales quota this quarter. Sales chief, it's your fault. What are you going to do about it? And that sort of thing. And when you start getting that pointy finger in the chest, I don't think that's productive.
Poking the bear is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So then what would you say are takeaways from those, from leadership roles that maybe for people who don't identify as, yes, I'm a leader in my life, but that they are in what they do, in trying to better themselves? What are some takeaways that you see that would be important to look at that leaders have?
So, I believe in many ways that everybody is a leader. And I know that's a very broad statement, but we can start off just by being leaders of ourselves. That's a good place to start. And what do I mean by that? I mean, are we managing our energy? Are we managing our presence? Are we learning? Are we growing? These are all things that I believe are completely within our control as an individual, and starting there. And then it's a case of growing our leadership muscles, right? Through training, through stepping out a little bit further and trying some things and starting to lead others. And we can lead others through our sheer presence. And this is where I really see it tie into, how do I see the world and how do we see others? Because in any company, there's the water cooler conversations. How do they go? We're showing up at the water cooler and, talking about they and them, and or we're showing up at the water cooler and being there for each other, right? It doesn't take much, in my view, to be there for someone else, to be there for the greater good of the business. It's all in the language. What are these words that are going to come out about what's going on in the business? And so people can choose to lead, in my view, at any point by choosing the words that are going to come out of their mouth about what's going on in the business.
Welcome to Renew Laser and Skincare, where beauty meets technology. From laser hair removal and anti-aging treatments to facial sculpting, acne care, and injectables, our expert team helps you look and feel your best with customized, results-driven care. Located in Littleton, Colorado, we offer a comfortable, welcoming space and cutting-edge treatments tailored just for you. Visit renewlaserandskincare.com to book your transformation today. Renew Laser and Skincare, where confidence begins.
Hi, I'm Adriana. Welcome back to Fit Bites. Today, let's dive into something that keeps your brain sharp: memory and cognitive exercises. Just like our bodies, our brains need regular workouts to stay strong and agile, especially as we age. Start with something simple: word puzzles and brain games. Crosswords, Sudoku, and apps designed specifically for brain training are excellent ways to keep your mind active. These challenges help to improve your memory, problem-solving skills, and mental flexibility. Learning something new is another powerful tool. Whether it's picking up a new language, mastering a musical instrument, or even trying a new hobby, challenging your brain with new information helps to create and strengthen neural connections. Socializing is also key. Engaging in meaningful conversations with friends or participating in group activities stimulates your mind and keeps your cognitive functions sharp. Don't forget about physical exercise. Activities like dancing, yoga, or even a brisk walk can enhance brain function by boosting blood flow to the brain and reducing stress. Mindfulness and meditation are great for improving focus and memory. Spend a few minutes each day practicing deep breathing or guided meditation to clear your mind and improve your cognitive health. Remember, keeping your brain active is just as important as keeping your body fit. Make these exercises a part of your daily routine and enjoy a sharper, more resilient mind. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana. In your opinion, what makes a physically healthy leader?
I think it's all about the energy, Adriana, the presence of a leader who's showing up at the leadership team table with energy to be able to, like, what does the business need to be doing, and to be able to drive through, the obstacles, the impediments, and the things that are going on. And so there's a lot of different aspects that go into energy. And I do notice this when I'm working with the team, just some of the real basics. Like, do people, get a good night's sleep the night before, right? Have they, been fueling their body with the good nutrition? That's so important. I can really remember years ago, and I wasn't sort of really kind of, I would say, aware about just the effect that food can have for people. Just noticing that sometimes, I'm working with a team, and here we are in America, so, what do people get for lunch? Well, let's get pizza. All right, so, we get pizza for lunch, and then at 1:30 in the afternoon, I've got a group of people around the table who are asleep.
About to crash out. Yeah.
Right? They're not doing their best work, right? Yeah. And so that was a real thing for me, to sort of seeing that. At that stage in my life, when I really started noticing that, I started getting into like the paleo movement for myself. Mm. And I noticed that when I have a salad for lunch and everybody else eats pizza, I'm awake and ready to go for it, and they're all asleep. So that was like a little wake-up moment for me as well, about just how these things work together.
And so this reminds me, I think sometimes when I've been to events, and I've been to, or in big groups where you do have someone that's kind of leading, and I look at the food that's being served, and it's more decadent than anything else. Do you think that are leaders aware of how they're setting the tone? Because I've oftentimes spoken with those who they are, they're at a catered event, the executive is putting it together, CEO, CFO, that sort of thing, but it's all the junky stuff. There's a lot of fried things and things that are not nutritious. So is that a trend, as I'm asking you this? Is it more oftentimes than not that they're not thinking about that? Or, what are you noticing? And what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think more often than not, people don't notice. They're not aware about how the food that they're putting inside themselves is actually affecting and having a direct correlation in what's going on and the effectiveness of their work. And the other things I noticed too, stress teams as well, a lot of, Diet Coke and other sodas and things like that. Just spending the whole day fueling with caffeine.
So is that more of what that executive wants, or is it just a quick go-to that it's just habitual and that's what they do?
I think it's habitual.
Okay.
It's not noticed. Okay. I would say.
So then what would it take? And I guess because I do subscribe to the notion of when you lead by example, you have to, if you're actively behind the scenes trying to put your better foot forward, it exudes. So what do you say to the executive who maybe isn't the healthiest, or how do you address that when you work with executives that they're rocking their role, but physically speaking, they're really not taking care of themselves?
Well, so it's just having a conversation with that executive, and number one, I really fundamentally, have to start off by maybe pointing out, their energy and things like that, and then seeing if that matters to them, right? Asking them about the goals that they're after, where they're trying to get to, and then saying, well, what would it look like, right? If you were able to show up on this team here, leading by example, right, for your team. And I do have some clients that have made this transition and have done this. And I see now the snacks on the table are things like meat sticks and nuts and things. And gone are the cookies, the chocolate chip cookies and those things. And instead of, the Cokes and the sodas, we now have, electrolyte drinks and things like that with no sugar in them. So I've seen people make this change, realize it in themselves that when we do this shift, hey, I actually start feeling better. And when I'm feeling better, particularly at 2:00 in the afternoon, then I'm in a better position to be able to lead the business.
What's your favorite way to onboard bigger groups where there's a whole array of chaos, where they reach out to you and they say, help? And what's your favorite approach to taking step one and working with that team or group or organization?
So it's a great question. I need to start really working with that whole team and getting everybody to lean in about where do we want to get to? What is that point on the horizon? And can we kind of stake that flag out there about where it is that we're going? So to facilitate a discussion around that. But then the next step really is breaking that down into what I call critical success factors. And so what I mean by that is, okay, 5 years from now, you want to 5x the revenue for your business. Got it. Well, what must be true in 5 years for that to come to pass? And that's when I really get the group starting to lean in and people start saying, well, we're going to have a better marketing department. We're going to have to, have our operations, a couple of layers deeper. We're going to have some automation in the business. So we start talking about these things that must be true in the business. And then we keep on breaking it down from there. And for me, one of the critical things is that there's a great quote from James Clear from Atomic Habits, which is, we never rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so I get people to write down the goals, but then the next challenge from the coaching aspect is, okay, so you put the goals there on the table. What's the system that you're going to put in place to get this goal to happen? Because otherwise people can be sort of very abstract. Well, we want to have, twice as many leads coming into the business. Sounds great. That's an awesome goal. But what's the system that you're going to put in place that's going to drive those leads, right? Because if we don't put that system in place, the leads aren't going to just magically happen by themselves.
What kind of personality just is a goal killer? what type of approach or attitude that you see that you think deal breaker in breakthrough success?
Yeah, so sometimes I think the type of person who maybe feels like they've got all the answers, that they're the only one who knows, how it's going to go in the room, that can be a real deal breaker in terms of trying to get the team to talk. And so this is when I was talking before about this artificial harmony, right? When people aren't saying anything, well, it's usually because they've tried to say something in the past and they got shot down, right? So the antidote to that is the leader that's able to say, great idea. What I like about that idea is, and spiral it up, right? To do the yes and, right? And to be able to take somebody's idea and take it to the next level and then get everybody really inspired by where the conversation's going.
So when somebody wants to get in touch with you, or when you are talking to a representative of a company or an organization, what kind of process do you take them through to onboard them?
Yeah, so I work with two different types of populations, although they're linked in the middle. So starting off on the EOS side with the entrepreneurial operating system, it's a business owner usually that I'm talking to with 10 to 250 people who wants to grow their business, but they're feeling a little stuck and they're not sure how to move forward. So then it's really just starting off having a conversation about, what's in the future? What's the art of the possibility? Where are you now? And what are the roadblocks that are getting in your way? Then I also do executive coaching for individuals. And, I say executive coaching, but really, as we talked about before, anybody's a leader. And so people who might be a solo entrepreneur, somebody leading a department in a business, or somebody who's just figures that they want to go do something different in their lives. And to me, it's the same conversation in terms of, what are your dreams and aspirations? Where are you trying to get to? What is 3 years from now feeling like you're really happy? Like, what's gone and changed in your life?
So it doesn't matter the industry. It's someone who is that's the team size. So industry, not really making it doesn't matter the industry.
It's more about a psychographic. In other words, what's going on in someone's, thought and thinking in terms of, do they want to make a change? Are they willing to be open and honest and vulnerable? And are they willing to get help?
Now, when you work with teams, do you go to them? Is it global? What does it look like?
So yes, typically I go to work with a team at their location, or we'll go to an off-site place when I can get them away from their office. I also do virtual work through Zoom. And then the cool thing is I live on a farm up in Longmont, and we're creating a place where I'm going to get teams to come to our farm and really get reconnected with themselves and each other and get grounded about what's going on in their lives and their business, and feed them a farm-to-table lunch. No pizza.
So this is the what a cool, it's kind of like a business retreat then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's back to basics.
Yes.
And so then this is what are some of the takeaways you've gotten from, or what are some of the responses that you've got and feedback that you've gotten from those who have come to the farm?
Well, this is still a work in progress.
Okay.
Well, we've had some events in the farm, and it's really it's been magical. We're so lucky living here in Colorado. It's such an inspiring environment. But to be outdoors, to be in nature, really helps people, I think, just kind of step back, slow it down, and as we're talking about, get grounded about what's going on. And the events that we have had, people find that this is just life-changing. It's literally a breath of fresh air being in the farm. But also, it's inspiring too, because we are showing people this is how you grow healthy food. This is what a carrot looks like when we pull it out of the ground. This stuff over here is kale. We can make it taste nice. And
I agree too, by the way.
So it's just it's creating an environment where people can see and create the possibility for change.
And so when someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So the best way is through my website. So it's stevemorriscoaching.com. It's pretty straightforward. I've got my contact details on there, and there's a newsletter that people can subscribe to. It's a monthly newsletter called The Navigator's Ascent. And so I'm bringing together my sailing and the mountains and really sort of talking about the tangible tools that I use with my clients about mindset and how we can figure out what's going on, where are we heading, and getting that compass heading to be able to set off and make change happen.
Are you on social media too?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. That's the place for business. So people can find me on LinkedIn at Stephen Morris, and I'm very active on there as well.
And what is the one legacy you wish to leave in this world?
The legacy I wish to leave is to really know that there is a set of businesses, there's a cohort of entrepreneurs who have created value through the work that I've been able to support and help them through. I truly believe that businesses are, the lifeblood of our whole society. When we create a business and that business creates value, we employ people. It allows people then to be able to create their families, to have houses, to raise kids. These things cascade out, but it starts from the core of creating businesses. And so if I can look and see that there's a set of businesses and a set of entrepreneurs that I've helped, that's going to make me really happy.
Well, this has been incredible to talk with you. I love the tie-in with that leadership role, but then also how it transcends into our private lives. And I think that's important to be able to connect the dots and just obviously put your best foot forward in any role that you have. So, Stephen, it's been incredible to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Adriana. It's been great.